They're minueting in a manner most genteel, but now it's you there with your petting. It's like a blinking five-course meal. No, love used to be just like champagne. Now it's gone down the drain. So don't send them flowers to put round their necks. What good are flowers? They'd rather have checks. To hell with the romance, let's start on the sex. Love isn't what it used to. Love isn't what it used to. Love isn't what it used to be.
Becomes more topical with every passing moment. Paddy Roberts with a musical and lyrical comment on the world as it wags. No more for now. I shall be in the square chair again in a sennight and look forward to thanking you personally from memory if you happen to have posted me lists, short but unlinked, to the BBC in London. My thanks to Barbara Page. Last thanks, because our producer is leaving us for pastures new. Happiness go with you, dear Barbara, but leave a little with us. Until we reconvene, this is Hubert Gregg saying, harking back to your letter, Hilary Forsyth, how, you ask, did I come to write all along Loch Long, since it is so unlike anything else I've thought up? I got the idea when journeying by car in the very early morning to a film location, along the shores of this loch. Does your brain function slowly in the very early morning? Paul Douglas was sensible. Huddled in the seat next to me, he didn't dare risk a remark of any kind. The driver and I exchanged the following idiotic dialogue. H.G. This is a very long loch. I felt Paul wince in the far corner. Aye, said the driver. What's it called? I pursued. Said the driver. Loch Long. Ah. Paul uttered a noise like a horse withdrawing its nose from a bag. But that's what began it all. Alan Dell is about to begin something else, so I'll say a mere au revoir. To you.
Many thanks to Hubert Gregg. Now at 7:30, about to begin something else, here's Alan Dell with a few dance band memories at your request. Malcolm Clark of Stone in Staffordshire writes, I am a regular, you know. I do indeed know, but I've not always been able to find playable copies of records that you've requested. Some that figured in these programs in earlier days are now absolutely beyond salvation. But in response to your recent query, what about Connie in the Cornfield? All I can say is, you want her? You got her.
Several hangers-on. When I met Connie in the cornfield, there was her sister Sue. She'd brought her cousin too. When I met Connie in the cornfield, they started singing before me. Tell me the old story. We were both going strong till her father came along. Then I left Connie in the cornfield.
Arcadians Dance Orchestra, directed by John Firman, on September the 5th, 1929, with Maurice, Elwin, and When I Met Connie in the Cornfield. The excellent trumpet solo played by the great Sylvester Holer, and with the band, Charles Saxby at the organ. It was all recorded at the Kingsway Hall in London. In a programme around the end of April, the question arose of what happened to Len Bermon, Henry Hall's drummer, vocalist, after he left the band, and George Elric took his place. Well, several listeners recall that he went into Variety on the Halls, Bernard Clark for one. Bill of London SE 18 says he saw Len Bermon on stage with Kitty Masters in Birmingham, and goes on to say that he read somewhere that he became a cinema manager in Maidstone, while Reg Burnett of Westcliff-on-Sea says he believes he saw a poster outside a dance hall in Dublin which proclaimed that Len Bermon was the manager there. But the most comprehensive letter came from Peter Powell of Norwich, which I'll read to you in part. He writes, I remember seeing him, Len Bermon, at the old Norwich Hippodrome in the late 30s. When I was at ITW at Newquay in 1941, I saw him in the uniform of an LAC. About 3 years later, in the course of my ferrying duties in Africa, I travelled on the same aircraft as Phyllis Robbins, and she told me that Len had died. Mr. Powell then lists some 10 titles, only 4 of which Len Bermon recorded during his time with Henry Hall, and one of the 4 is this title from September 1934, I Bought Myself a Bottle of Ink, which I'm afraid the BBC Mouse has had a little nibble from, but I'll pick up the 78 as neatly as possible.
A bottle of ink, I bought myself a pen, and after that, well, what do you think? I sat down there and then, but when I tried to write what I'd been thinking all a day, hi-ho, what am I going to say? I bought myself a blotting pad in case I made a smudge, although my heart was beating fast, my hand refused to budge, and then I said, by jingo, like the nib, I am a J. Hey-ho, what am I going to say? Once again to write that letter, I tried but in vain. Then, just in a flash it seemed, an inspiration came. So I grabbed hold of the bottle of ink, I grabbed hold of the pen, and after that, well, what do you think? I sat down there and then I wrote a life's ambition in a simple word or two. Hey-ho, darling, I do love you. I grabbed hold of the bottle of ink, I grabbed hold of the pen, and after that, well, what do you think? I sat down there and then I wrote a life's ambition in a simple word or two. Hi-ho, darling, I do love you.
I Bought Myself a Bottle of Ink, Len Bermon with Henry Hall and the BBC Dance Orchestra in 1934. On my return from America recently, I found a note from Sydney Lipton with an article about him and a super photograph in the Palm Beach Daily News. Both Sydney and his daughter Celia live in Florida, although according to Sydney's letter, Celia is possibly in London at this time. And Sydney hopes to be here in July or August. It'll be very good to see him again. Meanwhile, let's listen to his orchestra again. This is a Mac Gordon Harry Revel tune, which was written for the Shirley Temple film Poor Little Rich Girl, and it's called Oh My Goodness. Billy Munn arranged it for Sydney Lipton's Grosvenor House dance band, which included these famous people: Max Goldberg, Ted Heath, George Evans, Chips Chippendale, and of course Billy on piano. The vocal trio with the 3 T's.
When you smile at me the way you do, oh my goodness, sometimes I want to leave you. You tell such awful lies, but I could never leave you. When I look into those great big eyes, oh my goodness, I love you, do you love me? Honey, if you don't, why don't you? Honey, if you won't, why won't you? Am I gonna have trouble with you? I really ought to scold you. You'll have me old and gray, but when it's time to scold you, I hold you in my arms and say, oh my, oh my, oh my goodness.
Sydney Lipton and his Grosvenor House Dance Orchestra in November 1936 with Oh My Goodness. We now come to an Ambrose title that Bob Roberts of Rutherglen in Glasgow has been anxious for me to play for some time. Mr. Roberts, you asked for several other numbers, and you have on several occasions, but they were never recorded as far as I can see by Ambrose. Maybe he played them on broadcast and you remember them that way. The Blue Danube for one, and Will-o'-the-Wisp for another. But he certainly did record an excellent arrangement by Sid Phillips of Our Sweet Mystery of Life in January 1939. Just before I play it, a word to Fred Beals of Northampton. I did receive your earlier communication, and I was so sorry to learn of your elder brother's death. Ambrose did record a tune called Blue is the Night in April 1930 for HMV, but the only 78 I have is unfortunately unplayable. Otherwise, I would have included it in the program a long time ago. Sorry about that. But maybe you'll enjoy Mr. Roberts' choice as well. Here it is, Our Sweet Mystery of Life. Orchestra with Sid Phillips' arrangement of Victor Herbert's Our Sweet Mystery of Life. Now, here's a bit of fun at the request of Bob Woolven of Whitby, North Yorkshire. Maybe a whole programme of Harry Roy novelties would be a little over the top, but let's pop in one of your favourites now to continue your resuscitation. Harry and the Band in March 1941 with Salome, and incidentally this was recorded at the Grand Theatre in Derby when the band was obviously on tour there.
Where all the pyramids are down our street, where lots of dirty kids are, there's a cafe painted white, where all the sailors like to go at night. There's a native band, how they play, but the best thing is the cabaret. It's back to suffocation, bulging at the doors when they put on the show.
Oh, Salome, Salome, you should see Salome.
Dancing there with the feet all bare, every little wriggle makes the boys all stare.
She swings it, she flings it, and the cheeks all murmur low,
while the old spink winks and winks and winks out there where the sandbags grow. Salome, she's the idol of the kids. She looks like $1 million saucepan lid. Curtain rings stuck through her nose, and bells upon her pretty little toes. She's a dusky, and though she looks a boss, she'd be a lighter color if she only had a wash. But every night there's a big free fight to see that girl Salome. Adios. Adios. Chicky wicky. Wanky wanky. Ayo. Salome, you should see Salome, dancing there with her feet all bare. Every little wriggle makes the boys all stare. She swings it, she flings it, and the sheets all murmur oh, while the old spink winks and winks and winks out there where the sandbags grow. She just wants me for a sunbeam, and a blooming fine sunbeam, and my lovey la.
I bet that went down well when Harry and the boys played it in their troop concerts. Salome. Janet Bailey dropped me a card from Castleton, Rochdale, Lancashire, with a selection of Geraldo recordings she'd like to hear. Number 7 on the list is Deep in the Heart of Texas, which vocally features the aforementioned George Evans back in 1936. Of course, he was with Stdney Lipton, but he was to find his major recognition, I think, with Geraldo, especially for his arrangements and for his vocal contributions. Here, George is joined by the 3 boys and a girl, all of them deep in the heart of Texas in May 1942.
Texas, Texas, deep in the heart of Texas. Texas, Texas, deep in the heart of Texas. Land mighty wonderful to see. It is the land I understand, and it's there I long to be. The stars at night are big and bright,
deep in the heart of Texas.
the prairie sky is wide and high,
Deep in the heart of Texas.
the sage in bloom is like perfume,
Deep in the heart of Texas.
reminds me of the one I love.
Deep in the heart of Texas. The coyote's way
Along the trail, deep in the heart of Texas, the rabbits run around the brush. Deep in the heart of Texas, the cowboys cry. Deep in the heart of Texas, the dogies bawl and bawl and bawl. Deep in the heart of Texas, so deep, so very deep.
deep in the heart of Texas.
Not too sure about that last chord from the Three Boys and a Girl. Everybody overacting like mad as well. Geraldo and Company. Some way back, I had a card from Jim in Dorchester, and in his little list, he mentioned a tune that has been a favourite of mine for many years. This tune, but you don't hear it much these days. Its title is In the Blue of Evening, and I thought you might like this recording by Eric Winstone's orchestra, Jim. It has vocalist Alan Kane, and it dates from August 1943. Here it is, In the Blue of Evening.
In the blue of evening, when you appear close to me, dear one, there in the dusk we'll share a dream reverie. Crickets call and stars are falling. There 'neath the starlit sky, you'll come to me. In the shadows of the night we'll stand. I'll touch your hand, and then, softly as your lovely eyes entreat, our lips will meet again. In the blue of evening, night winds above, whispering I love you. There we will find romance in the blue of evening.
Finally, Mrs. Cuthbertson of Bromley would like a Harry Parry record for her grandson, who plays clarinet, and Claude Campion of Tamworth in Staffordshire suggests Rose Room. Not 1941, Mr. Campion, actually the summer of 1942. Harry Parry clarinet, Reg Dare on tenor, Tommy Pollard on piano, either Lodrick Caton or Archie Slavin guitar, Charlie Short on bass, and Sid Raymond drums. We've ended a little bit early on that one. That was Harry Parry and his radio rhythm club sextet, it used to be called, I think. But as I said, Harry Parry on clarinet. Reg Dare was the tenor man. Tommy Pollard, wasn't that lovely piano playing from Tommy Pollard? George Shearing, I think, used to play with Harry Parry, and he's turning up later with the BBC Big Band. The discographies list 2 guitar players, and I'm not sure that there were 2. Lodrick Caton, as I said, there was 1, and Archie Slavin used to play as well. Charlie Short, who lives down in Sussex, I think now, was on bass, and Sid Raymond on drums. Rose Room, old Art Hickman tune, published by Mr. Daruski. Anyway, that's our Dance Band Days request for this time round. We'll have lots more for you next Monday. Of course, remember on Sunday it's National Music Day, is it not? Right, in a few minutes after the news, we'll have some big bands for you.
BBC Radio 2.
The news at 8 o'clock. This is Nick Page. 4-year-old Laura Davis, who went to America to have a liver and bowel transplant, is having more surgery in Pittsburgh tonight. Doctors at the Children's Hospital there say she's developed a fever, and they want to find out whether her new organs are functioning properly. She's already had additional operations to repair a burst blood vessel and to deal with a collapsed lung. European community transport ministers have agreed on a series of measures which could mean lower airfares and more choice for passengers. Airlines will be able to offer services anywhere in Europe, and after 4 years they'll also be allowed to run domestic flights in other member countries. The British government is continuing to oppose plans from the European Commission for a maximum 48-hour working week. The Prime Minister and senior colleagues met today to discuss how to approach a crucial meeting of EC employment ministers next week. From Westminster, Hugh Edwards.
There's no doubting the strength of government opposition to the 48-hour week, but any talk of getting the plans dropped altogether is clearly unrealistic. The European partners are determined to press ahead, and the best ministers can hope for is a compromise that lessens the plan's effects on Britain. When Mrs Shepherd, the Employment Secretary, meets her counterparts on Wednesday, she'll no doubt seek that kind of compromise. If she fails, she'll probably aim to get the decision delayed until the autumn, perhaps trying to persuade her colleagues that this is not the time to antagonise yet further the band of Euro-doubters on both sides of the Commons.
A report published today claims that the number of women given the sack after employers discovered they were pregnant is increasing. The National Association of Citizens Advice Bureaus said employers were increasingly exploiting the lack of job protection for pregnant women. At Wimbledon, the American veteran Jimmy Connors has been beaten in the first round. He went down in 4 sets to the Mexican Luis Herrera. It was Connors' 20th appearance in the championships. And in the European Football Championships semi-final in Gothenburg, Denmark are leading Holland 2-1. More news at 9 o'clock.
Radio 2.
Hello again, Alan Dell back with you, and with a collection of big band sounds. Stereo and swinging first, with a dash of Dixieland in the middle. something you may have heard me play before, a tune called I'm a Lucky Guy, a composition by a wealthy American composer named Bob Friedman, wealthy enough to hire the best to play and record his compositions. That number was arranged by the solo clarinetist you heard, Matty Matlock, and the three trumpeters were involved. The solo open trumpet was by Johnny Best, the muted bits by Dick Cathcart, and the trumpet man who was leading the sax section was Manny Klein. I said they were the best. They were called the All-American Team. Some of the others involved, saxist Willie Schwartz and Eddie Miller, trombonist Murray McKechen and Tommy Peterson, pianist Stan Reitzman, and drummer Mick Fatul. And arranger Billy May, who scored and composed and conducted, not composed, Bob Friedman did that, conducted this piece, Thank You, Mr. Moon. The All-American Team, and Thank You, Mr. Moon, arranged by Billy May, who put pen to score pad for an early album by Nancy Wilson. Just Billy's brass blowers and the rhythm section get to work on this one.
Ooh, what a little moonlight can do. Ooh, what a little moonlight can do to you. You're in love, your heart's a flutter, and all day long you only stutter 'cause your poor tongue just will not utter the words I love you. Ooh, what a little moonlight can do. Wait a while till the moonbeam comes peeping through. You'll get bold, you can't resist him, and all you'll say when you have kissed him is ooh, what a little moonlight can do. Ooh, what a little moonlight butter, 'cause your poor tongue just will not utter the word, I love you. Wait a while till a moonbeam comes peeping through. You'll get bold, you can't resist him, and all you'll say when you have kissed him is ooh, what a little moonlight can do. Ooh, what a little moonlight can do. Wait a while till a moonbeam comes peeping through. Now you get bold, you can't resist him, and all you say after you've kissed him is ooh, what a little moonlight can
do. The drummer got left behind. Nancy Wilson and Billy May's brass. We're going to go mono here in order to include a couple of requests. First, a track I get asked to repeat again and again. It involves several of those you heard in the All-American team, i.e. Dick Cathcart on cornet here, Eddie Miller on tenor, Matty Matlock clarinet, Nick Fatoul drums, and the others in this band are Mo Schneider on trombone, Ray Sherman piano, George Van Epps guitar, and Judd DeNort on bass. In other words, this is Pete Kelly and his Big Seven. As a matter of fact, the soundtrack of Pete Kelly's Blues in 1955 was recorded in stereo by Warner Brothers, but this is the mono studio take of Bye Bye Blackbird. Pete Kelly and his Big Seven, and